Going back to this emergency room doctor and this gentleman who is responsible for the culture of this large hospital, how do you think someone gets to that point where they actually are truly amazing and they do so much more than the average person does, but they see themselves as so less?
Most successful people that I know historically are fairly modest people. They're fairly humble people. But there are two categories of people. People who chide themselves for not being special or successful, despite their outward success, and those who embrace it. I think one thing the majority of people walking the planet have in common is they take themselves for granted. They take their story for granted. They don't see what's truly innately special about them, and thus what their contribution to the world or their community or their family or their friends might be. People who brag, people who are conceited, who are vain, that's not ascribing outsized value to the truth of who they are. That's superficial. That's an outside game, not an inside game. The inside game is the truth of who each of us is, and we're all so different. If I tell my story truly in a Q&A or whatever environment, people are going to reflect back to me things that I ordinarily have brushed under the rug. And I'm caught up in the moment. I'm not even looking at where I've been and how I got to this moment. I think really successful people come in all different stripes. Some of them are very humble because they understand how much work went into it and that it was a team sport. They didn't get there on their own. And I think what it comes down to really in a sense is, and age is a big help in this, is the secure person is more modest, a little bit more interested in the other. And if you're more interested in self and you're a little bit more braggadocio or you're a little bit more vain or whatever that is, it just says that you're a little bit less secure. It's not a terrible thing. I'm not judgmental, and I don't see it as good versus bad on a sliding scale. It's where each of us is on our path, learning to be a better version of ourselves.
Gary, do you live by a schedule?
I live by a schedule not nearly so much as I ought, but I do. I do have certain things that I do in the morning, more often than not, that are just personal, private things that have nothing to do with work, that just set me on a path toward a more positive, action-oriented day that make me feel good. So there are things, some of them are physical, some of them are not, some of them are dietary, some of them are not. On a more macro scale, I absolutely am much more disciplined now about making sure that my schedule has holes in it, because I didn't used to. Used to be that I was so busy morning to night, I could work 7 days a week, every week for weeks on end. Now I ensure that I have time for friends, I have time for proper meals, I have time where I'll take, time to go to the zoo with my friend and their kids or whatever it might be. So yeah, I think because the real work is not being busy. The real work is I'm a businessman and I'm a creative person, and both are essential. And I think that we all have that experience of, oh my God, this great idea came to me in the shower. Why did that come in the shower? It came in the shower, or when you're swimming, or when you're distracted, when you're doing anything that completely removes you from your normal thought process as you're in the flow of work. And taking time off from work is probably the most work productive thing you can do. So a lot of my inspiration comes from having taken time away.
Do you advise that to a lot of, let's say, new people who arrive in LA, New York, San Francisco, where they are so ready to set the world on fire and kind of get their, accolades under their belt? What do you tell someone that maybe is just starting out and is so hungry, and going back to younger people and being competitive?
I would. It's moderated though, because when you're young and you're new and you're full of vigor and you're just, ambition is like driving your every waking moment, that's okay. Go with it. But within that, allow diversity. So if you're just doing the same one thing repeatedly, or if you're, for example, if you're a writer and all you do is stay home and write, not good. It's not healthy. You know, there's more legs to the stool. You've got to be out making relationships, and you've got to be out learning the business. You've got to be out doing these other pieces of the puzzle so the picture forms well. You can't just do one thing repeatedly and hope for the kind of grand success that you envision. I don't think.
I think I heard a quote one time from Jackie Gleason, and he said that his advice for like famous people or people that had kind of arrived in the industry was, don't stay in.
Don't what?
Don't stay in. Don't stay inside, don't isolate.
Yeah.
Because that only leads to greater things down the line. And if you want to take a look at someone like maybe Elvis, who toward the end of his life, I think was more isolated and things like that. So as a creative person, we want to think, well, we're working on our craft or whatever it is that we're doing. And if we're out there having fun, then we're not being true to why we came here.
Everyone has their own way. And I do think that some of the people I admire most, some of the things I appreciate about my own life is the persistent, consistent driver that is creativity in my life. I'm a learner. I am an addict. So whether it's books or people, conversations or documentaries or whatever it might be, or travel, and travel could be, I was just in Europe, or I was just in Nepal, or it could be traveling in this beautiful Los Angeles that is my little planet, because there's so many layers and so many opportunities, some of which align perfectly with my work and some of which have nothing to do with it, but inform me as a human being. And I do think that, like I had a liberal arts education in college, the broader my inputs, the better off I am. I think getting too narrow and too routine in your pursuits is probably not a success formula for most.